think we're on. Could we be on episode 13 already? I feel like these are flying by.
We haven't done this 13 times.
Well, I have. Remember, I have a
Kenny,
couple
yeah.
beforehand. So this is number 13. Let me tell you something. I'm still bloated from dinner. Today's
really?
the youngest child's birthday. We went out to a restaurant that I worked in high school, and I got a little bit of PTSD. I was like, oh, my God. I know what these guys are going through. So it's a fun place, though. I didn't mind it. It's loud, though. I don't like loud restaurants.
It was informal, casual.
Yeah. Not super fancy. But anyway, guys, big one. We have some big Twitch news, which we're going to save kind of for the end, kind of a wrap up, like a recap. But other than that, I don't know if my feeds are just weird, but I don't get much political stuff anymore, unless it's something like really boring politically. So
Yeah.
my feed's been more so gaming now.
It's been picking up because we're getting close to an election, so you should be getting more and more. A lot of polls. You
Yeah.
start seeing a lot of poll
A
stories.
lot of numbers that I don't feel like looking
Right.
at.
This one's pulling ahead. This is behind. And
Yeah. But we can start with a follow-up from last week, which I found. We talked about this was the first topic of last week, which was the Yeshiva University.
yes, you told me you saw something.
Now, I saw this. LGBTQ club offers Yeshiva University a compromise after school put all student club activities on hold following Supreme Court ruling. Now, I'm curious on your opinion on this because it kind of breaks the argument of like, oh, we wanted to be the heroes, or do you think that it's more of like an argument of we're trying to play both sides here? So it's not the actual club. I read into the article and it's a little misleading. The LGBTQ club isn't the one offering it. It's a LGBTQ community of Jewish people that have created a donation to give to the LGBTQ club to give to Yeshiva University. So the club's not doing anything, but I thought it was a nice gesture from the community to at least try and make a compromise, even though I understand that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, the compromise isn't really the issue, but I wanted your thoughts on this one because it kind of not destroys the argument of last week of like they're doing it on purpose, but I think it's a little inclusion. How do I put this? Not an inclusion issue, but it's almost, to me, it's like you have this group within the Jewish community, so we're not even talking about the club, that even they're trying to stick their hand into the idea of trying to get changes in a Jewish university. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Even though they're part of the whole community. See what?
Yeah.
It's a subset of the Jewish community. So I don't think this really fixes anything, right?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't fix anything. Offering money as a compromise.
Yeah, I mean, they're not saying yeshiva's right or wrong. They just want the other clubs to be able to operate, and if this is a way to do it, which tells me they're getting pressure from the other students because of their request.
It's either that they're getting pressure, or they, to a certain extent, they want to get back at the school and don't want to affect the students.
Yeah,
See what I'm
well,
saying?
right.
Right. Like, it's not fair. They understand that it's not fair to the students that we're destroying their clubs for
Or they didn't realize that yeshiva would answer the wokeness with
we're not changing.
We're not changing.
That's a good point,
because they're
too.
used to people bending for their needs.
But you would think that they didn't want
And again, it's a very nice offer for yeshiva. If let's assume it's being done with the best of intentions. It's a nice offer, but it doesn't change the fact that they're a Jewish university and they don't accept that lifestyle, or they don't accept it as a club because that lifestyle goes against the Jewish teachings. It's similar to Catholicism. You love the sinner, you hate the sin. That's how it's always been.
The sinner, hate the sin.
Yeah, I mean, we're all sinners, right? So to some places it's akin to saying, okay, well, you can practice your sin and we'll let you do it because you're human beings. But that's not the right approach. And, it's kind of, it's a gesture, but it's kind of not solving the problem or the situation for yeshiva.
Yeah. To me, this is almost like the idea of you have a community within a community of the Jewish faith, in that area specifically, in that area of the country, and they say, well, we're going to take our group and kind of collide it into this issue of what's going on to make a change more so into the I don't want to say the faith, but the concepts of the school, like the school's belief system. And I don't know how much money they're raising, but colleges tend to have a lot of money. So I don't know. Will it go to a lawsuit? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's pending in state court.
Yeah,
That's why the Supreme Court sent it back and said you have to go to the state court to get the temporary restraining order lifted, or ask them for a quick review. If they won't give you a quick review, you can come back to us. Right. That was the article last week, and that was the point. So, I mean, it just comes back to they're not used to...
Don't mind the cat. That's the cat playing with paper.
They're not used to people saying, yeah, just no. And that's the new attitude now. And groups like the LGBTQ, and I'm not just saying them, but other groups that are trying to push an agenda on a school that they knew full well when they enrolled at the school that was not acceptable, right? That's not what... So these universities, fortunately, and I hope they stick to their guns, because regardless of that issue, if a school has a policy or it's the ideology of the school, they shouldn't have to bend.
Right, and government can't really have a say in much if you...
Freedom of religion, if they're following the rules.
I can't see them losing this legal battle. If anything, if it's enough money... And I mean enough money, as we know with all colleges. A lot of colleges do need that money, and you might see some compromise. That's probably what's going to happen if I were to guess.
But you have to remember, the big money comes from the donors, and if the devout Orthodox...
Do you think the most... Go ahead, sorry, I shouldn't...
Well, I'm just saying, that's where the big cash comes from. The endowment money doesn't come from the students in the LGBTQ group. No. It comes from the alumni at the schools that give huge chunks of money to the endowment. And it's an amazing force when the alumni get together and they decide that they don't want something. Not always, but if it's a devout school and older generations don't want to see that, and there may be some who want it. I'm not saying it's across the board. But if the majority says, you know what, we're not donating anymore if you cater to them.
Yeah.
Because if you cater to them, you have to cater to everybody. And what's next? The satanic group wants to come in and be part of Yeshiva University? I mean, that's what's going on in the public schools now. Satan as a religion, the satanic religion, wants now to have clubs after school. Well, if you could have Christian clubs, why can't you have Satan clubs? They make a valid point. The only issue legally is, and it's, again, splitting hairs. It's like if Yeshiva considers itself a corporate religious group, it gets treated then if it's a private religious educational group or academic group, and that's where you start splitting hairs, and that's for the lawyers to decide. But
right.
There are plenty of schools out there. If they were really big into forming these clubs, there are many schools that would automatically, they have them already. Why this school? Why now?
All right. I like that answer. That's a decent answer.
It's a valid argument, and it's a nice outreach on the other, assuming they're being altruistic.
You give me one of yours, because I was trying to get into yours, but all of them, they're like, please turn off your ad blocker. And no offense, but I'm not turning off my ad blocker.
Well, the first one I wanted to do, I saw a few articles about this, so I thought, well, this is interesting. The title of it is 10 times experts, which is in quotation marks, predicted the world would end by now. And we touched upon this in one of the earlier podcasts, but in my lifetime, I can't tell you how many times the world was going to end.
Right.
There's been so many crises, and I'm not even the full gamut. I was born in 65. So things like this, it's been going on for years and years. But I'm not going to read you one, but
everyone's doing the math like that now. They're like, how old is she?
57. So, number one, global warming to wipe nations off the face of the earth if the climate change is not addressed by the year 2000.
Yeah.
22 years ago.
Yeah, 22 years.
All right. That number one is Associated Press quote from 1989. They were quoting a UN official.
Nice.
Okay. The number two, mass starvation by 1975.
75.
Okay? So when I was 10 years old.
So these are just in your lifetime.
Yep, so far. I mean, that was a best-selling book titled Famine, 1975, ! America's Decision. Who will survive? Okay? Didn't happen. As a matter of fact, the article goes on to say how food actually increased in the years after that, the production of fruit. Number three, global freezing as dangerous as nuclear war.
Global freezing.
Freezing, not warming. So this was in the year 2000. We were all going to freeze to death from worse than nuclear war. Year 2000, it was 11 degrees colder. UC Davis professor by the name of Kenneth Watt was talking about how devastating it's going to be. obviously now we're on the other side of the spectrum where they're trying to tell you there's global
Yeah.
warming. Number 4, massive warming by the year 2000. That was the same UN official from number 1 who said,
Kind of went back in the span of.
right, and in that amount of time, right, Earth's temp increased 1 to 7 degrees in 30 years. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, here's my problem with this, and I think this kind of is the overall theme of a lot of media nowadays. A lot of these times, I feel like even though some people take them seriously, these are people who are, I don't want to say, I'm sure they're smart people because they have their degrees and doctorates and whatever, but I think a lot of this is I can easily come up with something based on knowledge that I understand that people don't understand, so I can get my name out there and be a little more famous.
Well, it's a little bit more than that because...
Well, let me ask this. From when that the guy we just talked about, the first time he said something to the time where he said it the opposite, so cold to how many times did you hear that guy's name in between those two times?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe a lot, but if I was a betting man, I would say you didn't hear of him until he said...
Well, if you're in the UN, he's a UN official, so he heads up the environmental group. So I'm sure he had other topics that he addressed.
Yeah.
But these are pretty dire things.
Yeah. Throw a clickbait article on there. And
Al Gore says 10 years are left in 2006. Okay? He predicted mass flooding. Just the world was just going to be a nightmare. Then he goes and buys a house a few years later for $8 million in Los Angeles.
How many
beach.
billions of dollars do we give Al Gore for, and to this day, still giving Al Gore for stuff that he was wrong about?
Environmental catastrophe will cause nuclear holocaust by the year 2000. Another UN official said that in 1982. There's only 10 of them, I think. But
sounds like we should stop listening to the UN.
Well, number 10, and this is the important part, the real reason with a question mark. Economist Walter E. Williams says, environmentalists have occasionally tipped their hand about what motivates their predictions. Quote, we have to offer up scary scenarios, make simplified dramatic statements, and make little mention of any doubts we might have. Stephen Schneider, a professor of biology at Stanford University, said to Discover magazine in 1989. Quote, each of us has to decide what the right balance is between being effective and being honest. To what end? He cites Senator Timothy Worth, who was a Democrat from Colorado in 1988. Quote, we've got to try to ride the global warming issue. Even if the theory of global warming is wrong, we will be doing the right thing anyway in terms of economic policy and environmental policy. So that original person, Williams, who cited that senator, finds this exaggerated, unacceptable. Lying is never okay. To mislead people is never okay. You can mislead kids and tell them there is Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, but don't treat adults like children. So, in other words...
What are you saying about Santa and the Easter Bunny?
We won't get into that in the blog. But, the point being, you have to over-dramatize for economic policy and environmental.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it goes both ways. I mean... Votes, YouTube videos, same way, clickbait. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot to that. It's not just, when you're talking about government and who's right, who's wrong, you're trying to bring people to your side to the ultimate level. So it's going to be in there.
It's a moneymaker. So now it's culminated in the Green New Deal, which the United States and globalists...
If it's $1 billion, how many billions of dollars actually goes into anything and how much is pocketed?
It's control of businesses that provide energy. When you control, you have power. When you have power, you can dictate literally who lives and who dies, as some of these people were predicting. So if you can control the agriculture, you decide how many people and what people.
I want to know how many people threw away all their money thinking that they didn't have that much longer to live, and those crazy people put millions of dollars into a bunker or something.
Yeah, I remember 1999. People were freaking out. Oh, it's going to be Armageddon because the computers won't be able to do the 2000. It's going to think that it's the year 000 and everything's going to crash. It was just ridiculous.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But again, that was 22 years ago, and we're all learning each year about technology and whatnot. But that was the understanding, and it just took a few techie people to say, guess what? We're going to have problems if they don't update computers. People panic because the whole world at that time was just starting to get into computers, and we were starting to realize just how much of our world is controlled by computers. So millennial, it was, what do they call it, the millennial crisis? But yeah, that was a big deal. We're all wondering, what's going to happen January 1st of the year 2000?
Yeah, like
Instead of believing the whole world
like
was going to
something was
crash.
just going to turn over in one night.
Right.
Like it doesn't make any sense.
And what was ridiculous was like, okay, so what do you want us to do about it? There really is nothing you can do. It's one of these, you're in the hands of God kind of thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with these starvation
Well,
things.
here's a weird insight for you. We always worry about like global warming, what's going on the planet.
Yeah.
You know how many meteors come close to
I
hitting
know.
the Earth every day?
I know.
That are big enough to wipe out this planet like 10 times over,
know.
and yet we never get hit.
I know.
So it's like, hey, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
There's bigger things out there to worry about.
Right.
So again, it's something that for both we really don't have that much control over. I don't know if you want to get into the whole global warming thing, but my thoughts on global warming, and I've given this before. I think I did this on one of the earlier podcasts, but China makes up like 40% of our world's carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Right. We only make up 13 here in America. I know we
Yeah.
have some Canadian listeners and whatever, but say we brought ours down. Say we brought ours down 13%.
We have brought ours down
to zero. Say you bring it to zero. Yeah. Say you did manage to bring it down real close to zero. If no one else is changing,
Right.
there's no point in doing it. And now if you say, well, what do you mean there's no point? You're bringing it down X amount of percents. That's great. What you're not factoring in, though, is the infrastructure change that we would have to do in the United States to get down 8% is it would change everyone's lives for good.
Right.
So the way I always put it is, if I was a country that wanted to harm the United States, when is the best time to do it? When their pants are down, trying to do a huge infrastructure change. And I always have a problem when Elon has a famous clip with Leonardo DiCaprio, of all people, where they're going through the Tesla factories. And Elon says, well, with 8 of these factories, we can power the entire world, or maybe the country. I forget which one it is. But
big difference.
It is big difference. But the problem is, either way, it's not like we go to his power on these Tesla things and everything's the same. No, it's like, do you like having your phone charge in 20 minutes? Because it's not going to be 20 minutes anymore. It's going to be like 8 hours.
Right.
Like, that's the infrastructure change that you don't understand the falling parts of. If we were to try and bring our 13% down to, let's say, 10%, it would change our lives for good.
Yeah.
For good.
Right.
So if China and Russia aren't bringing down their carbon footprint, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster for us. First thing they're going to do is try and invade. That's what I do.
No, but we've been saying that those of us who care about the environment but are skeptical about the approach. When's the last time Greta Thunberg went to China and was lecturing those officials?
Well, I haven't heard that name in a hot minute. Yeah.
When's the last time you've seen, Al Gore get on a plane and lecture the people of China, or the
His
leaders
private
of China?
plane.
His private plane. All these individuals, okay? Who's the first group they always attack? The United States. And we've actually brought our numbers down. But we're an industrialized nation, and we're an easy target because you get people here with the soft heart, like, oh, we have to do our part to save the world. We can't save the world by ourselves.
Yeah.
We would have to put financial and economic pressure on countries like China, India, right? Ones that have no emissions controls and refuse to put them in because they realize then they can't pay their workers 2 cents an hour. Because now you have costs like we do in America. Costs money to do that, carbon emissions and whatnot. And just recently, the UK, that was one of these big globalist areas, they're fracking now because they need the energy. And all the coal plants are being fired up in Germany. And mind you, that's with only, not even a winter yet, not even a full year. They've been threatened that they will not have fossil fuels.
Right.
So they're going right to coal. So even these individuals that have been preaching and screaming about how, countries have to do more and the U.S. has to do more, the minute they're threatened, they go right back to the fossil fuels.
Yeah. Fossil fuels are too important and too deep-rooted. It's like trying to get off computers. It's like you can't do it anymore. It's not possible.
Well, here's the reality.
infrastructure change would be
People turn their nose
insane.
up at our capitalist society, right? Capitalism is the ultimate in global if you will, global care or stewardship. If there was a way to do it cheaper and make money, you don't think every one of those places out there would have put up solar farms by now? Exxon, Mobil? It can't be done cheaper and efficiently, not for the number of people on the planet.
Yeah.
They're constantly looking for ways to their credit, because if they can make money, they're going to do it. You know?
Well, that's
It
kind of
costs
like,
money to
I mean,
frack.
it's kind of the same concept, not even from a global warming level, but like the factory farming level. Factory farming is horrible when you think of the ethics and morals behind it, but when you have 300 million people to
You gotta feed.
there's no other way. What, you think you're going to have 1,000 hunters go out and
Right.
hunt 50 deer? And again, that's one of those infrastructure changes that would be so drastic it would change the lives of everyone in the world, not even just our country at that
Yeah.
point. So again, there's certain
And we got a lot of crap for getting out of the French Accord. The previous president took us out of that, the climate accord with France. Everybody was up in arms. We had to do everything. Nobody in Europe did. We had to cut back even more. It was so biased against us. It was so unfair. And the U.S. was getting nothing out of it other than it was going to cost more money, which means our workers get paid less, right? Our factories close. So finally, somebody looked at it from a business perspective and said, what are we
This is
getting out of
insane,
this?
yeah.
We're not. So
yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Right.
I mean, guys, I can't even emphasize. Like, you couldn't even imagine the infrastructure change that we would have. Like, you couldn't even imagine it.
yeah.
It would be. That's why all these people that talk about, oh, things are going to change by X year. It's not true. It's completely just a talking point for votes or whatever you're trying to gain. It's never going to happen. The idea that all cars are going to be electric, well, we could get into the argument that electric cars aren't really electric anyway.
Well,
but
and the lines in California right now, I sent it to somebody, Twitter feed of a picture of the lines waiting to charge their car.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a gas line where you pull up, fill the pump, and you go. We had those in the 70s with President Carter. People waited on hours, but once you got there, how long does it take to charge a car? Isn't it hours?
yeah.
So
I
when you
mean,
pull up, you're plugging in. You're waiting
Yeah.
hours for the guy in front
well,
of you.
what they'll do is they'll limit it, so you can only get
Yeah.
up to like 50 miles, which might take like half an hour to charge, but still.
Yeah.
Um.
How good is that? Because I can't do that with my Mac.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Don't you ruin the battery sooner? You drain it sooner? I don't know with
Yeah.
the cars, but yeah, the
It's a lithium battery, so you don't really have to worry about it as much. Lithium batteries are pretty durable
Okay.
until they're not.
Right.
That's the problem. So like 20 years, it might go.
Right.
But yeah, and then the other issue is, well, what happens when fossil fuels run out? Like, you don't realize how
They're being made as we sit here. It's like a constant
you should look up. I wish I
creation.
saw a video the other day. It was like how much gas is made per second. It's insane how much. Like, it's a tube that's got to be the size of our house up and down.
Yeah.
1 second fills that every second.
Like I said, capitalism is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
They found a way to do it fast and cheaper.
So yeah, so when we talk about these oil crises that we are having, it's really not so much.
They're created crises.
Yeah, so
They're man-made creations.
I don't want to point fingers at anyone, especially when we don't have too many facts. Like, I don't want to say it's the presidency or whatever. When it's more so the fact that these big oil companies can kind of dictate the prices to a certain extent, so they can blame their prices going up on something like a COVID or whatever. So they're at fault too.
Yeah. But that's just now. I'm saying these are man-made crises. You could pick any
Oh,
element,
yeah. I'm
right?
just saying oil as like the idea of getting off fossil fuels. It's never going to happen.
Right.
We need
and
it too
up
much.
until I
it's
want
too
to say
effective too.
5 years ago, we were at the mercy of the Middle East. So they literally ran the spigot.
Yeah.
We're gonna slow
Why do you
down.
think we went into Iran?
Well, but now
why do you think we had the Iraq War?
But also, why do you think everybody said frack, frack, frack?
Frack, yeah.
Because we became energy independent.
Yeah.
And
That's another one that people
leads to a
complain
lot of
about.
issues.
Fracking is, they say, oh, it's terrible for the environment, but I saw a statistic. I don't know how accurate this is because it sounded so crazy that it didn't even make sense. But if everyone in the world allowed fracking, gas would essentially be free because of how easy it is to get oil. Like, you have these ideas that there's only certain oil fills in the world. If you frack deep enough, there's oil everywhere. It's literally like the earth has crusts.
Yeah.
If you can get to a certain crust, I don't know which one it is, and I didn't research it that much, but it's just a whole crust of oil that we literally cannot deplete. Like, it's so much.
Here's my issue. Why does it have to be all one thing and not another? Why does it have to be all the Green New Deal? Just like, why does it have to be an electric car? Why can't it be hybrid? Why can't you have tax credits for a family that has one hybrid car, give them tax credits, but you could still have your gas-powered car? And let the person decide based on the economics of what works. why can't? Well, we know you can't rely on solar because sometimes the sun's not out. You can't have solar in the UK. There's never any sun
solar's
up
not
there.
that good. Like when you
Right,
actually,
wind
this is
farms,
perfect example.
if there's no wind,
Perfect
right?
example. Wind and solar.
Yeah.
Don't listen to what they tell you. It's garbage. It does not get that much. It's not that efficient. So when people are like, I power my whole house.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to say that given.
Oh well, yeah. But like,
They would edit that one.
yeah. What I mean is, solar's just not effective enough that you could power a whole house unless you're storing the power somewhere, and that's expensive.
Right.
So I mean, it's not efficient in comparison to fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are so powerful in comparison to whatever they throw on the market. I'm not saying solar is bad, but I'm saying that if you were to compare fossil fuels to literally a combination of wind, solar, whatever else you want to throw in there, it's still not even close.
Right. And where do you think the electricity comes from for these batteries? It doesn't come from, the ether. It comes from plants that generate the power to create the electricity to get it out to all these stations. So it's a farcical argument that we don't need that anymore.
Could you do it? Yes, but at the same time, the speed at which you could charge devices, run your house, it's not even close.
And they're struggling with 1% of the people. We talked about that last time. 1% of people buying electric cars. And already they're having issues with getting enough electricity for it.
Yeah.
What do you do when you think the whole world's going to be driving these electric cars?
Yeah.
Where is all this power
that's
coming
what I mean.
from?
It's completely a talking point. It's not true. There's no merit to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Any evidence that points to should we do it or not, it's always a no.
Right. Otherwise, they would have done it by now.
Yeah.
If it was feasible
if it was that
to do
easy
it.
and
Right.
reliable,
That's the beauty of capitalism. Everyone looks at that as a bad thing. But, capitalism it's a beautiful thing. If somebody could make money and do it efficiently, it would have happened by now.
Yeah. That's You got another one, or you want me to do one?
You can do one. I have a couple others.
Well, are yours all along the same line, just so I don't completely derail everything? Okay,
Nope.
well, let's talk media. Kind of what we were talking about, but Snapchat's limitations are finally catching up, and marketers are noticing. Now, my mom doesn't have Snapchat. I have Snapchat, of course. But Snapchat might be the worst form of media ever. Like, it's awful. Snapchat's good for, like, talking to your friends and stuff and sending, like, stupid pictures. Like, I'll send pictures of the cat and Bo to people. Sometimes I'll take some. But from a media perspective, it might be the worst form of media ever. You had a couple people... When Snapchat first came out, and they started doing the kind of... You can be an influencer on this app.
Right.
Maybe two or three. The only three people that are super famous now, I'd say four people that are super famous that came from Snapchat are Bradley Martin, who's a fitness guy.
Okay.
Sarati, who is she's a model.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of who else. The ones I see all the time are Chanel Jeffries and Cassandra Martin, I believe.
Don't know any one of those.
They're all fitness influencers, pretty much. They're all just. But besides them, I don't think I could tell you another person that was, I guess, Snapchat famous, because they all kind of moved to everything else anyway.
Right.
But they're the only ones that stay relevant. Now, everything else is all news related. Okay. Now, here's the problem with Snapchat. It goes in 60-second.
It doesn't stay, right?
So with news, every clip is, I think it's 5 seconds, and then you have an advertisement. So can you imagine trying to watch content where every 5 to 10 seconds there's an advertisement?
Yeah.
It's the worst form of media, and you can't skip it. So...
Can you buy a membership without ads?
No, because I believe they put the ads on. So it's literally just like, imagine... I always see Snapchat kind of as like a slideshow. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. So you look at it as a slideshow, and then next slide is an advertisement that you can't get past, and then next slide. It's the worst. Like, I don't know how anyone thought that was a good idea. And as this thing says, it's catching up to them. When you look at something like a TikTok, a YouTube, I mean, Snapchat's on its last legs. I'm sure they have money because they're a big app. They're like probably one of the top 8, I would say. Top 8 apps that are downloaded on the App Store, but it's not for news. No one's going to it for news.
Yeah, I thought something young people, like when you guys were younger, high school, Snapchat was big when people would do their 5-second clips. Here
Yeah, you'd send it to your friends, but
Right.
when it comes to a news, like there's people that run there and like Barstool. I don't even touch the Barstool Sports one.
Yeah.
Because it's like an advertisement, and I don't think they decide the advertisements. I think that's Snapchat physically choosing the advertisements in between slides.
Oh, so it could have nothing to do with your channel.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. So, but those companies like a Barstool have figured it out. Like, hey, let's just post it to YouTube. Like, let's just do both.
Right.
So I just go, oh, this is interesting. I'm not gonna watch it on Snapchat. Let me just go to
I'll
YouTube,
just use
search
YouTube.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was kind of an inevitability, but the question is, what happens to Snapchat? I think it's always going to be used because it's a good source of like communicating with friends, but this is one of those markets where if someone can come up with something better, now is probably the time.
Yeah.
You can do the news so much better because the model that they have makes no sense. An advertisement every 5 to 10 seconds is, I mean, it's stupid as hell. So if you could get rid of that or like make it a little more, what I'm trying to say is there's a market for competition right now. Yeah.
Viewer friendly.
Yeah. This is a quote unquote, again, I call it a money grab. I tend to use that word a lot or that phrase a lot. But if you can limit the ads, I mean, yeah, I mean, you crush Snapchat right
but
now.
that's the 22. They need the ads to keep the app going. And if you
But they're not getting the advertisement revenue because they throw all these ads at you, but no one's watching stuff all the way through. I want to know what percentage of people actually watch all the way through. Maybe there's a Snapchat Premium, but if there is, it's probably the worst marketed thing I've ever seen because I've never even heard of it. And I've been on it since I was a sophomore in high school when it first started.
Yeah, I would think that there's probably a whole team of people that analyze it, or you would think up, down, and sideways, because at some point it's not just the app. There's a whole business behind it with people and salaries and benefits and costs.
Yeah, the breakdowns are probably insane.
Right. So people start leaving Snapchat and going to other sources. They're not looking at the advertisers. The advertisers are not making money. They drop off of Snapchat.
Yeah,
now they wind up being a MySpace.
There's just so many better. Yeah, there's just so many better sources of media. Like TikTok went from 1 minute to minute 30 to 3 minutes. Now you can do 10-minute content on there. It's about time they start. Their advertisements are different because it scrolls in between videos rather than just in the video.
Right.
So like you won't see an advertisement on. If I put a 10-minute video on TikTok, there won't be any advertisements. But if you scroll the next video, which is just a random video, there might be an advertisement in there.
Right.
You can skip right through it.
Right.
So it's a matter of time before TikTok kind of figures it out. I think when they start doing more long-form media, like when more people are using the full 10 minutes, they'll probably start moving out to that, like moving up to advertisements in the video embedded in. Maybe they probably won't do skippable or non-skippable ads, so it'll probably be like something in the top right corner of one of my videos or something like that. The other problem with TikTok, and not really a problem, but it's more so made for quick content. Yeah, you can post 10-minute videos, but who's watching a 10-minute video?
The TikTok audience is not looking for
exactly.
10 minutes.
Most of it, if it's under a minute, it's going to do well. If it's any longer than that, it starts dipping.
Yeah, that's not made for that.
Yeah, I just thought I think Snapchat's always going to be there, but I think it's going to get to the point where it's only going to be used as like a tool to talk to your friends and send pictures to your friends. I give that a couple more years, I would say.
Well,
it just can't hold up.
There's been interesting stories. I don't know if you want to include this in the podcast, but when you compare what the children of China see on TikTok.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, I think we talked about this recently, but TikTok in China, who created it, very different. So you're only allowed on TikTok an hour a day.
Right.
Or I don't know if that's true. I think you're allowed on as much as you want, but after a certain time of day, the content changes from like the goofy, silly stuff that we see to like educational stuff. That's what the feed's going to prioritize.
I don't know if they get the goofy stuff over there.
Yeah.
That we have.
All I know is that it's very different from the ones here. Now, I talked about this with someone at the gym. The question is, though, So you have the Chinese version of TikTok, and then you have the American version of TikTok. And what I mean by that is there's a company here, like there's a TikTok headquarters in America. My question is, was China just like, and again, not to get into the whole behind the scenes stuff, but I wonder if China said, hey, here's TikTok blasted in America, and we were the ones, like the American side decided, well, let's just make it all goofy shit rather than just
No, I think
educational
it's by
stuff.
design.
You think so?
I absolutely think it's by design, and I think there has been, I can't quote that, but I think there was discussions a few years ago about that when they were exposing TikTok and how much
That
Chinese
was more some
influence.
data breaches, though.
No, how much influence the Chinese government has in it, to the point where they were questioning if it's a valid company and if they should be allowed to continue having a market here in the United States.
I thought that was over data, though. Over the data usage, like how much data you're giving them.
Well, yeah, what data they were getting about the audience, right, and who they're catering to, and markedly they're giving a lot of, or allowing a lot of garbage to our young people, which they do not allow that to their own.
Yeah, I mean TikTok's algorithm is it's so random. Like out of all the, I've said this before about TikTok, not from the perspective of a content creator. The beauty of TikTok is you will have famous people on there, and then you will have people who are not famous and still do as well. Like have one video pop off that does as well.
Right.
You'll never see that on something like a YouTube or an Instagram.
Right.
It never happens.
Right.
So I don't. That's why it's so hard to say for me from like a data perspective. Is it really someone influencing it, or is it just a matter of just the algorithm, at least here in America, being so unbelievably random that it just can't figure out like specific. So what I mean is like mine will be either attractive females or something educational. Like I'm still getting educational stuff, but it just seems so random. Like if I was to go to my feed right now, it would be so out of whack. You'd be like, how is this? I'm trying to figure out the algorithm here.
But is that something you choose?
No, so it's
content,
based off chance. So the algorithm, what I do know is that it builds based off what you see. So let's say I'm scrolling through videos.
Yeah.
This one I watched 6 seconds. The next one I watched 6 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, and then one was 10 seconds. They go, okay, what was that 10-second video?
Right.
What were the tags? Let's start pushing more of that content.
Right.
So my guess is the Chinese version doesn't have that aspect. It's you can watch whatever you want, and then after a certain time, it's all educational stuff. Which that's just the flip of a switch. I
didn't know that was the case time-wise. I thought they limited their exposure to the junky stuff.
No, I know it's a certain time limit thing. I saw a list of it, but yeah, it's kind of wild how sporadic TikTok is. And I kind of think that's a good thing because...
Well, you and I, we can have this argument, but I'm not as convinced as you are about these algorithms being scientific and random. I do think that they are manipulated.
Well, I think if you wanted to manipulate them, you could.
Right, and I think if we've seen nothing else the last few years since the COVID and the schooling and education and the garbage that's going on in the school system, and now this push with minor attracted people and...
that is a weird one. That one, that's a fair argument to make on TikTok.
You could go back 20, 30 years, and people that we all consider nut jobs would write about this. You need to get the minds of the kids if you want to take over a country, if you want to take over the world.
Right. You saw
I know it sounds like wacky conspiracy stuff when we were younger.
No, it makes sense. It's just basic knowledge. You're going to go for the people that
infiltrate the school system. Don't educate them, which, by the way, if you really want to get basic and go back, what was the first thing that they did to slaves in this country? They were not allowed to be educated.
Yeah, they
couldn't go to school.
That.
Well, you can edit it out. But my point is, there's been a concerted effort you get into the school system, you manipulate what kids learn in any country. It happens to be this one because we're the most liberal, right? We're the most open to whatever both sides of the story kind of thing. But now you're seeing with social media, I don't believe this algorithm stuff. I think it's being manipulated.
Well, you have to have some kind of algorithm just to push information. Like
right,
you can't,
but I think they're manipulating
I think,
put it that
to
way.
your point, I think you can manipulate the main stuff, but think about it. When you have billions of people using it, you can't really manipulate it. If we were all seeing the same thing, then yeah, that would be the manipulation. But it would be incredibly difficult to say, there's Irene Katucci, let's let's push certain videos towards her.
No,
You
but
see what I'm
I
saying?
think they'll say the American market, the ones that are mostly younger people,
Right.
for every one decent one, make sure you put 10 garbage things out there. And every kid is getting slammed with
I'm
that.
sure you can have
Right,
that.
and they're flipping through the smart stuff because, we have become...
Right, at a certain point, you have to make the decision of what's good content and what's bad content, even if you're a young kid. But that weeds out the weak from the strong, the ones who can think for themselves.
But do you see the direction we're going in? There's no critical thinking anymore for kids.
Yeah,
You're not going to weed it out.
yeah,
They're just that's what schools become. This is what social media's become. Just everything in front of them. There isn't even a filter anymore. Kids can see and look at anything they want to, right? Used to be like age restrictions.
Yeah, that's a tough one because the age restriction was a problem a couple years ago when we had there was an internet thing that we had, which was, what was it called? They want to stop making. I wish I remember what it was called. There was a saying for it, but the guy got slammed for it real bad. Internet.
Parental controls.
No shit. It was a whole court thing, and everyone hated the guy. Like he was like the most hated person in the country for a couple weeks. Shit. I can't think of the word. But basically, yeah, so they said after that court case where this guy tried to basically stop people from being able to use the internet freely here in America, they were like, well, no, we have to make it completely free. So the age restriction stuff got taken away where it was like, oh, this is age restricted, but you can allow yourself in. Like, it's just a matter of changing your birth date.
We used to have that on TV. You had the family hour. You couldn't put anything risque on until 8 o'clock because that's when kids supposedly went to bed. That doesn't exist anymore. You can watch an R-rated movie in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I mean,
again, because the platform has exploded, and you can't control every station all the time.
Right, and that's how I feel. That's how I feel TikTok is.
Right.
Like that's why when people try and compare TikTok to YouTube, you can, but they're not really the same. It's very different from YouTube. Well, you can't compare apples to apples. That's why I think. That's why I think TikTok's algorithm is based on randomness rather than the Chinese version. Mainly because in China, even though it's big there, like they're the ones that made it, the population that uses it is not as big as the American one. So let's say
because they can't.
Yeah, they don't have.
They have restrictions to the internet over there that we don't have.
Exactly.
And the Chinese know that, and they take advantage of the fact that our young people, 24/7, they can get information of a particular kind in massive amounts if they flood it into TikTok.
Right. The randomness is based on what you've seen. So they're not, like, very rarely will you ever see something so out of your realm of what you've been looking at. Like, the algorithm's pretty accurate in that regard.
Right.
So if I look at garbage, I'm going to get garbage.
Right, but if they're pushing more garbage out there, even if you do it by happenstance, you're going to see it. It's not pushing.
I don't think it's a pushing. Like, based on the 2-3 years I've been on TikTok, it's not so much of a push as much as it is, like, it's just random stuff. Like, a push to me would be if they were pushing an agenda, right? Like, you push certain things that you want done.
Right, but if you have...
Or said or thought.
I do think that that's part of it.
But what I'm saying is I've never seen that in my 3 years. Like, it's either I'll have...
That might be because you haven't selected a lot of garbage stuff. Like, if a young kid picks 5 garbage things and watches one for 10 minutes, to your point, now the algorithm knows, send him 10 more garbage things, right? And send him 10 more.
It's based on tags, I believe. So certain tags. Right. So if the things I watch the most are Call of Duty, I'm going to get mostly Call of Duty stuff. Very rarely will I get anything else.
Right. But if I'm a kid that's watching, Cook Your Chicken and NyQuil, which was the thing last week, right?
Yeah, but that's not, but see what I mean? That's not...
that type of content, right?
Yeah.
Even if I just happen to come upon it. Well, their algorithm notes, okay, that kid happened to come upon it. Send him 3 more of those. If he watches those 3, send him 4 more of those.
That's what I mean, though. It's too random. It's not going I can't think of any time where I've seen the same thing of the same topic 3 times in a row. See what I'm saying?
Could that be because you're older and you're more varied in your tastes?
No, I don't really use TikTok like that. Like, I'm constantly... Mine's mostly animals, as you know, pets. Right. So, for me... the ones I hit the most tag-wise is dogs, cats, puppies, whatever.
Right.
If I was just doing chicken, which is a tag that probably has less than
pranks.
10,000.
I think it's more prank, or what do they call them? TikTok challenge.
The challenges are an issue, but
Yeah.
but again, that's the randomness. So that's not like, think about it. Even though this is how you know it's not being pushed, I never see those. I never see those when it's more so catered to kids that are into the pranks. So if you're into
Right.
pranks, then yeah, that's what you're gonna get.
Right.
But I will never, who's not into pranks, I will never see a prank video.
Right,
See
and
what I'm
that's
saying?
so then we're kind of agreeing with each other. So if somebody has a particular area that they have an interest in, even though they may have 4 of those and one, I don't know, science based, whatever, they're going to see that you did those 4, and they're going to send you 4 more for each of those, but maybe just 1 more.
Right.
academic one.
Where we disagree is you're saying it's a push. I think it's just an algorithm trying to learn what you want.
Right, but we'll put it this way: I think it's a manipulated algorithm.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
as
random.
manipulated as you like. If to me, manipulation would be if everyone was getting something very similar. So like these TikTok challenges that are stupid as shit, like punch your teacher in the face challenge
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want to push an agenda, I'd see that on my feed, right? Everyone would be getting
Well,
it. You
not
can't-
necessarily because then that's what I'm saying. I think the algorithm is manipulated to give it to that particular audience, and it could be 1 billion people that kind of look at those things and give them more of it. Throw in one of the non-TV stuff. But
You're
throw
right.
in
I
more of the
agree, but I
gibberish.
would say that that's more of an algorithm just learning based on what you're interested in than a actual manipulation.
Okay, we could say that, but then what's the value of those type of?
Well, if it's completely random, it's not about the value; it's about the randomness.
No, but somebody's gonna just see
There's
those
nothing
particular
valuable on
things.
TikTok.
Well, I
Let's be
know.
honest.
Yeah, well, I mean
There's
that's part of the issue too. You get and they know it, right?
Yeah.
It's valuable in China. The kids are getting academic information. They're getting praise. Or
Like
something.
I think
You're
you can make the
wonderful, blah,
argument
blah, blah.
that, like, I think China manipulates the certain usages there, but I don't know if they have that much control over the. Well,
Yes, they
I'm
do.
sure they have control over the algorithm, but like, how do I put this into words? I mean, like, if I wanted to limit something and put in, here's why I think that they don't have the full control. If I had full control and I want to really spew out all educational stuff, why would I give a limit to it when I can just have it go all day and just be educational stuff?
Because they don't want their kids sitting on the internet like we do in America, because then they're not learning in school. Those kids are not sitting there with telephones in the classroom. They're not sitting there with computers in the classroom. They're old school over there. Those kids are learning math, science, reading, writing in their own, turning on engineers and little worker bees. So yeah, this is what I mean. It's amazing to me when you take a step back from somebody who wasn't born into this. Okay, the electronics it has its pluses, absolutely, but it's impacting younger society.
Yeah.
And you're older, so you could look at something about the chicken with the NyQuil and think, well, this is stupid, and flick through it.
Right, you'll have idiots out there no matter what.
But when you have children that are impressionable and they're starting at, kids are getting iPhones in the 3rd grade, they're starting younger and younger. That's what they take in all day. Some of them, that's their schooling because they have their phones in school all day long. That's their concept of learning.
Yeah, but again, I don't think, from the American standpoint, I think it's the randomness of it, and that's whatever, based on what they're watching. Like, if I'm only watching video game stuff, I'm only going to get video game stuff, right?
Right.
Like
So
that's
if
what I
you're a
mean.
3rd grader who only watches silly, goofy things like these challenges, right, you're going to get more of those. And places like China understand they are our enemy. We are their enemy. I don't care how people want to sugarcoat it. They understand that. And remember, they don't do things overnight. They got decades to do this. And they've been infiltrating it for a while. And it sounds like conspiracy theory, but when people take a step back and see where the internet has gone, kids now have it 24/7. Remember when you were younger? Not every kid had an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Not every kid had a cell phone. It took for a while to get these smartphones. Now, every kid has it. They did a thing in school. I didn't do the article. One of the schools, I don't know, in the Midwest. They're trying it where they put the phone in a lock bag. And you get it at lunchtime. And you undo the lock at lunch.
That's got to be such a public school thing because we never had phones.
It was public school that's
Has to
doing
be,
it,
yeah.
right?
I've never seen phones in school that were allowed.
The kids didn't mind it. You know who complained? The parents. Not all of them. because
Yeah.
they felt it was a security issue.
Right, that's what
Okay.
I would have said. That's probably what they complained about.
What they started to find, and I don't know, the principal might have been blowing sunshine, who knows? But she said many of them weren't asking for it at lunchtime. They wanted to just sit and talk with their friends.
No.
I could see that happening more and more if you force the issue. But if they have nothing better to do, right? And that's the point. They're so, and our enemies know this. Our kids are addicted to this. They don't have free will in places like China. They will shut the internet off for the entire nation when they lock them down.
That's
Like, we can't understand that concept. But they have that over there. They literally control access to any information. And I think they manipulate these algorithms. I think they have the power. Or they understand
I think
how they
it's
work.
more. It's definitely more so manipulated over there than it is here. That's what I would say.
It's probably controlled over there more.
Yeah.
But they're both manipulated. I think it's by design that they want it as much garbage thrown out there as often as possible, knowing full well nobody's stopping American children and European, we'll say Western children. Nobody's stopping Western children from the content. They don't even get stopped at school, right?
Yeah, I don't want to go on about this much longer, but like, it just doesn't really make sense to me in the sense of if I was a country and I wanted the data, right? I wanted data. Which was a big
data's
problem.
different. But
Data's
okay.
different, right? Because that was a big issue with TikTok. It was, hey, they're taking our data.
Right.
Why would I make an algorithm to get data that I specifically want when I just want to know what the overall data is? So why would I limit myself to a data that I already know what the answer is going to be? Like, if I wanted to say, let me promote one specific thing, I mean,
I think
I wouldn't
the
have to
bigger issue
manipulate
is
anything.
what do they want our data for and what are they doing with it?
Well, that's what I mean. They're probably using it for. You wouldn't put limits or manipulate something if I want to get any data possible, right? I want to see what you do. I don't want to manipulate it. So if I was doing rat trials right now, right? I'm not gonna. If I want broad data, I'm not gonna limit the mouse to only being able to get one food. I'm gonna get it for 10 different foods and see which one it wants, right?
Or you want to watch and see what the mouse goes and takes, so you know in the future that's what I'm going to give that mouse because that's what he's going for.
Yeah,
the rat.
and that's how any algorithm would normally work. So that's why I don't think it's so much of a manipulation tool as much as it is just pushing content that rat's going to like the most.
Well, what if that rat likes one thing the most and then a secondary thing, and I only give him the secondary thing? Over time, he's going to give up on the primary and stick with the secondary because he has no choice.
Or he's just going to find something else.
Right, or find something else.
That's what I mean.
But I can manipulate
you can say
them
secondary,
into what?
yeah. Like, I get a lot of gaming content even though I'm not into games. Like, to that level, some people... I only get Call of Duty stuff. So it's like, you know...
If there was no other gaming information, you'd have to find something else, right? Or you wouldn't bother anymore.
Well, yeah, again, but that's why it's so random. I would give me some new thread to go off of. And it's done that for me before, but it's never anything that's promoting something. It's usually something like cars or something.
Well, I guess it's the difference. I'm not saying that they're doing it as a promotional thing. I think they're doing it as a mental manipulation thing. I really do. I think they understand. Otherwise, they would allow.
Yeah, but you
more
can say that about everything.
content.
That's my problem. Like, you can say that about food.
Our education system. I agree.
Sure.
I
Education
agree.
system, sure.
Yeah.
Food, I mean, pushing crap food instead of good. Like, so you can find something like that to fit that narrative anywhere.
Absolutely.
But that's why I just don't think that it's so much of an algorithm issue or a manipulation issue as much as it is just a regular algorithm issue. Like, I think algorithms are the problem. The one thing I like about TikTok in comparison to everything else, which, again, I've been on everything for 5-10 years plus.
Yep.
It's more so the randomness of the algorithm is nicer than having a specific algorithm on YouTube. So, because YouTube's catered to specific things, whereas TikTok's very random.
Right.
So that's my thing. That's why out of all of them, I mean, TikTok's been the best.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, I'm not any of the sites, so I really can't talk about it other than in general what I read and my understanding, looking at it from somebody stepping back in totality. You know, all these websites. I'm not even saying it specifically. This one's better than that one. Just if I wanted to manipulate a certain group of people, especially young and impressionable kids, which is the future of our country or the Western world, that's what you start. And boy, they've got them on a hook right there, just from anything social media based or computer based.
Right. All right, you got another one?
I do. This is a different topic. I thought it was kind of interesting. It's a group using West Virginia model to create a new California.
Oh, I
Serves
saw
Gavin
this.
Newsom notice of constitutional default. It's a short article, but it's interesting. What I didn't realize, I probably should have, this is how West Virginia was formed.
Yeah.
So a group of people broke off for the Civil
How'd
War.
you not know that?
I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it.
For some reason, I
but
did know that, but
I didn't know it was related to the Civil War. Obviously, I was like, well, they must have broken off for a reason, and it was for that reason.
yeah. So, yeah, I think this is the exact article I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, here's what's wild about this. So when you look at, I'll post the map, but when you look at that, right, California is probably our most liberal state. You can make the argument, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The blue, I'm sorry, the yellow are pretty much the only liberal areas. How crazy is that? So everything else that you see is pretty much Republican, but because of how big the main cities
No, not
are,
Republican. I wouldn't say that.
conservative, I would say.
Yeah.
So, like if you did one of those hot maps, those heat maps during elections, it's mostly red. But because those 4 or 5 cities are blue and have the majority of the people,
Yeah, usually the main cities.
yeah, the big media cities, it's just so fun to look at. Like that, all those yellow right there. If you took them together, that would be the liberal California.
Yeah. So you're
How nuts is
San
that?
Fran, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
Sacramento's the capital. I don't know Marin and San Mateo, but yeah, I mean it's an interesting concept, and they're trying to do everything within the Constitution
To
turn
separate,
that state
yeah.
around. They tried a recall of the governor, and for whatever reason, they got the signatures to have the recall, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we've seen this happen in many states, especially blue states, where the tide's running against them, and last minute something saves them.
It's just wild to look at that and go, oh, I thought California was a super liberal state, but all of a sudden you look and all of that is more so conservative, which is amazing.
And as liberal and it is still, even these counties that are looking to leave, I bet you many of them are liberal. It's just gone so extreme. I mean, that's
it's
the
gone.
problem.
The extreme is the
It
problem.
has gone so far.
To those people that were a little more left leaning have
Right.
gone borderline to the other side.
Oh, it's
Like
just
Bill Maher's a great example. Someone who was pretty liberal and now he's starting to see the BS.
right. I mean, they're just crushing the citizens of the state, and
Crushing is
even
an
they can't
understatement.
take it anymore. So, and they're leaving in droves, going to Arizona, going to Nevada. So they also can't afford to lose the tax base, right, for the people who are there. And to their credit, I mean, California is a beautiful state. I mean, it's physically it's geographically beautiful, and especially down south. Again, it takes up a big chunk of the country where you're going through a wide range of climates just in one state. So I just loved how they're trying to do anything possible within the Constitution and breaking off and forming their own, which is what West Virginia did, because
How
Virginia's right on
fed
the
up
border.
do you have to be with your state to consider making a new state out of it?
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it's gotten in California.
Yeah.
But
Well, they had that in New York, Long Island, I want to say 10, 15 years ago. They wanted to leave the state of New York. They wanted to form their own state because it was becoming so oppressive, but they just couldn't. They either didn't have the votes or they didn't have enough money to do it because you need a tax base. You got to run a state. I forget why it fell apart, but every now and then you'll hear a group, quote unquote, threaten to do it. It is their right within the Constitution if you follow, you have enough people. That's how we wound up with the other 47 states. I'm sorry, 37 states. They went through the process and got their own statehood. So anyhow, that was kind of interesting.
What's your last one? Your last one was like a 50 something. Here, hold on, let me
And then
pull
my
it up.
last one, no, I had one short one.
Let me see. There's one that I see that was 50
50?
reasons to rethink climate policy, and then the 10.
Well, I won't do that one because
we
kind of
already we went through that one basically. So that was the only 3 that I got. So unless there was another one,
Didn't I send you the special hunting day in northern Michigan?
no.
Oh, so this is a short one, and I never really thought about this. It's a special hunting day in northern Michigan for disabled hunters and vets. So hunting season has started.
Please tell me that the phrase is hunt thy enemy.
They allow one weekend during hunting season from October 13th to the 16th. The hunters will each be paired with a guide for one-on-one hunting experience. And they're allowed same limit. State law limits each hunter to one deer, which will be butchered and prepped for the hunter to take the meat home. And I'm sure some of them, especially like vets and whatnot, probably many of them were into hunting or shooting, and it's a way to cull the herd. This is in Traverse City.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what they do with it. I'm curious as to what you do with all that meat. Like, Ted Nugent does the.
They would use it.
He takes the pigs on the minigun on the helicopter.
Oh, and the boars, the wild boars.
Yeah, because wild boars are like a real problem out in. It's either Texas, California. I forget where he does it, but he feeds a crazy amount of people with all those boars.
Yeah.
The problem with feral pigs is. They destroy everything.
They're feral pigs.
They're feral pigs that will eat through entire
Pigs are bad.
crop.
Feral ones are worse.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is like those pink pigs that you see, like the baby pigs. If they're out in the wilderness, they become boars. Like, it's insane how there's actually like a physical change, domestic versus like non-domestic. Yeah. So
scary.
Yeah, that's like a crazy evolutionary thing that is pretty wild. So
I saw a camera of a woman hunting, and a wild boar came at her.
Yeah.
And she shot it.
Oh,
times.
yeah, I've seen that video, yeah.
But they're only allowed 3 bullets
where
they're hunting. There must be some sort of rule to keep people from massively killing.
Yeah.
I think she unloaded all 3, and the darn thing, it took the 3rd bullet to take it down as it was coming at her. A shotgun, really something. So, yeah, those things are nasty.
I just want to slide this over.
So, firearm hunting starts November 15th. Get your gun ready. But they set aside this one weekend just for veterans and disabled hunters.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Gives them something to do.
Yeah.
Give
us something to do? I don't think so.
No, give them something to do. What's the name of the, what's that famous book where the guy, he's the hunter that hunts humans because he gets so bored of hunting animals?
Yeah.
Is that Call of the Wild? No, not Call of the Wild.
Hunting Game?
Hunting Game? Is it?
Something
yeah,
like the Hunting
you
Game?
might be right.
I think every high school kid has to read it.
So that's a good book.
Is it Hemingway? Might have been. I don't know.
Let's see Mom's knowledge here.
Yeah. It's a
Hunting Game book.
Or was it The Survivor or something? I'm sure we have it
Hunting
somewhere in the
Game by
basement.
Helen. Oh, you might be right. It might be Helene Trustin.
I didn't think it was a woman who wrote it. The one that you're talking about.
Oh, The Most Dangerous Game, I believe is what the book's called.
Okay.
The Most Dangerous Game.
Who wrote that one?
Wise House, maybe. Let's see. Dangerous Game. Author is Richard Connell.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, ready to move on to more not your area?
Yeah, that's all I had.
All right, so NVIDIA just launched the new 40 series graphics cards. We talked about this last stream, or last podcast. That's the new graphics cards.
Yes.
Now, remember when I predicted the price on these things?
Yes,
it's probably going to be like $1,200.
Yeah.
It's actually about $1,600 for the highest end model. Now, here's the problem with this. Couple things. So, first off, awesome. They're great graphics cards, a little expensive, whatever. Now, here's the part that I don't really talk about. Without going into too many specifics, I talked to Jason about this. This thing is so powerful that most computers will not be able to use it as efficiently as its capabilities allow. So, like, if I threw this thing into my computer, it would have something called bottlenecking because I have what's called DDR4 RAM. I have a high-end CPU, but my motherboard's not really made to control what this GPU can do.
Okay.
So, basically, this GPU costs $1,600 MSRP. Mm-hmm. But in order to use it to its full potential, you have to
You have
to build a whole new computer.
Yeah.
So these motherboards, you basically need a motherboard that does DDR5, which is pretty hard to come by because DDR5 RAM came out earlier this year. Oh. So unless you built a computer this year, you probably don't have a motherboard compatible for DDR5. If I was to change motherboards right now...
What about Mike? She did his this year.
Yeah, his is a lower budget computer, though, so it's not going to have that. He's got a different board, too. But because of this, I don't see these doing that well, these graphics cards, until they're more usable. Now, as I said, these things are crazy powerful.
Yeah.
Can run any game on the highest settings, whatever. But the problem with that is right now on my 2080 Ti,
Yeah.
which is 4 years old now, there's no real difference in what there's nothing I can't run perfectly. So now you get into the difference between 200 frames and 300 frames. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Some people all the tech companies are going to say, and tech YouTubers are going to say, oh, there's a huge difference between 200 and 300. And that's true. But I'm going to tell you this straight up. You will not physically be able to tell the difference. Right? There might be some subtle changes in certain areas where you'll see frame dips.
Yeah.
But if I gave you something right now that was 200 frames and something that was 300 frames, you'll say this one looks a lot crisper, but if I didn't even show you the better looking one, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Well, does it matter when you're editing and whatnot? Does it make a difference?
So that is a difference. So you have something in a GPU called VRAM. Mm-hmm. And what VRAM is basically it's a special, in the most layman's terms, it's basically a specific amount of RAM.
Yeah.
So computer RAM just dedicated to the GPU.
Yeah.
So it's got what's called a VRAM cache.
I just realized we got to remember the cake.
Yeah, today's our brother's birthday. Yeah, we'll try and speed through this, but
That's right. Unless you want to break and come back, it's up to you.
Nah, screw Michael's birthday. Come on, what's more important?
No, I can't do that. That's not right.
What is he, your son or something?
It's actually Dad's probably jumping at the bit. We're gonna have that cake.
We'll speed through, but so it's not that these aren't worth it. It's just that the timing of where video games are at now and computing power, like if you're doing 3D rendering or whatever, sure, it'll be faster, but do you really need it is the question. And at a $1,600 price point,
that seems like a lot.
Go get a 30 series, so a 3060 or whatever for $200 right now. Like that's the difference that we're talking. Now, the new 4090 has, I think it's, I wish I knew.
Less than $1,600?
No. That's the $1,600 one, but I'm trying to think of how much VRAM is in it.
Oh.
I believe it is more than 24. I'm going to say 28. Might be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But that's double what mine has now, so it is worth it. But there's also something that no one really talks about, and I don't know why. There's actually something higher than the 4090, Mom. They're making something higher than the 40. Didn't know it was possible. Yeah. This is called the RTX 6000. Every year they do a card that's like crazy over the top just because we have the computing power, but it's probably like a $3,000 card at MSRP.
Oh my gosh.
That's really well. The people that use that are really people that are doing software design and software engineering stuff like that, like Blender renders. You're not really using that for gaming. That has 42 gigabytes of VRAM. You can send a rocket to the moon off that, right? It's an insane amount of power, but again, why would you ever need it? Your computer's never going to need that much. And by the time games come out that do need 48 gigabytes of VRAM, I mean, there's going to be a 2070. That's going to be like the outdated.
But people use it professionally, like to make games or to.
Yes, that's exactly
content?
what that card would be for. So if you're doing Blender renders, so 3D design, movie renderings, that's really what I would even say this card is for, the 40 series.
And that's a small expense in the realm.
So
of
right now, if you had to build a computer right now, if you were like, I want to build a computer,
which I say every day.
Yeah. You're better off just going with a 30 series because games are not going to be games are not going to catch up to that 40 series for the next 2-3 years at least. So that's why, as cool as this 40 series announcement is, it's not that great.
Is it better to make the investment if 2 years from now you're going to need it?
You would think that, but no, because the cards that will be coming out in 2 to 3 years, so like the 50 series, might be so significantly better that there's no point in getting the 40 for 2 years. That's why I believe that the 20 it's definitely a balancing act, but that's why I truly believe that like my 20 series, 20, which is 4 years old, is still going to hold up for probably the next 2 years. Then I could upgrade. Right. But at that point that'll be a 6-year-old computer. And that's pretty long to not make an upgrade. So, but it'll hold up. Now, if I was on a 10 series, that won't hold up. But 20 series, 2080 Ti, so I have the highest end one of that series, but If I want to, I'd just throw a 3090 in and then I'm upgraded.
Right.
There's really no reason to get a 4090 or 40 series unless I was a video, like a 3D renderer and doing movies. That's really it. Yeah. So if you were like, do I get the 40 series? Listen, all the big YouTubers and tech are going to say, oh, well, 400 frames. It doesn't matter. It's not... I know every tech YouTuber is going to come after me for this, but you won't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
So as long as you can run the game, as long as you can run the games
Right.
that you want to play at max settings and at least 60 frames,
Right.
even 120 frames, just get a 30 series.
Okay.
That's what I mean. So for those of you wondering, but next one we are going to talk about. This is probably the biggest one, the biggest gaming news to come out this week. So.
Drum roll.
Oh, even you might have heard of this one. I just want to see.
I take offense to that comment.
GTA 5. When did GTA 5 come out? Could that have been 13? Wow. So this week there was a GTA 6 leak. So Grand Theft Auto 6, it has been in the works for the last 5 years or whatever. And this guy hacked Rockstar Games, the company.
Yeah.
And basically released all this footage on the new gameplay for not good.
Not good.
So people are excited for this because the last GTA 5 to this day, even though it came out when I was a junior in high school, is still probably the most top 5 played games. Which
That's
is
how long it's been since they've
done the last GTA.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, is this Dad? Or is that Mike? Which one is this?
What time is it?
It's we're gonna do.
Yeah, we're doing the cake. Would you pull it out because it's got to thaw for a few minutes?
Okay.
It's in the freezer. Just put it on the island. Don't take it out of the box. I'll do that.
Yeah, give us a few.
We're almost done.
Yeah, my brother's like, I need cake. My fat ass brother.
It's his birthday, for God's sakes.
So that came out back in 2013.
Right.
So this leaker, he also hacked Uber, which is nuts. So this kid's clearly pretty brilliant. He's 17 years old. Now all these people out there are like, yes, Grand Theft Auto 6 is finally happening. Now here's why this is terrible. This kid released what's called the source code for the game.
Oh, that's a no-no.
That's a big no-no because that's the company's patented designs, the stuff that past Grand Theft Autos have been based on, what GTA 5 has been based on. That's going to... We've waited almost 10 years for this game. You just pushed it back probably another 3 to 5 years.
I had visions of this kid in his basement. Like, I'll show them for giving me that Grand Theft
the FBI had to get involved.
I'm sure.
Now, what's interesting, though, is this kid's not doing... They're not saying that there's any time. Like, they haven't given the, how many days or years in jail he's going to be in. Here's my guess. I bet he's one of those kids that's so smart, they're going to give him, like, a little deal.
Give him
like,
a job.
You do some work
do
for
it
us. But this is, like, you shouldn't be excited for this. This is not good. Like, when the source code for a game like that gets released, and remember, GTA and Rockstar...
Oh, no, it costs a lot of money for these businesses.
It hurts other games, too, who use that source code.
That's right.
So this is the worst news we can have.
Well,
if you're excited,
what end would this kid do it? Just to prove how smart he is, that he's able to do it,
either
or does he
that
have
or the
some
fact
sort
that
of...
people have been waiting for GTA 6 for so long, for 10 years.
That he's retaliating
he's like, I'm just going to show it because you guys want to know it. There's a lot of factors potentially, but either way, this was not the move. This is not good because he sold, like, people were pretending to be him and selling. Some guy got scammed out of like $100,000 because he thought he was getting the court. It's a big deal. Like, this kid really effed up the world in the gaming industry right now.
Well, if he didn't make, quote unquote, make money off of it,
he didn't.
He might. I mean, they may extenuating circumstances. Like, why was he doing it? It wasn't to benefit financially.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe it was a smart thing, but I bet you if he's this smart to get through that, they'll probably end up giving him a job. And
right, I'm kind of
you'll hear this go to the side. And
but I'd like to hear the story of why he did it, just to prove that he could do it.
Well, he's a 17-year-old kid.
He's
probably
mad at the company. Was he doing it for his friends as a joke?
Well, here's the thing. I think this kid is a brilliant kid at coding and hacking and whatever, but he didn't think of the repercussions. He wasn't mature enough to think of the repercussions.
Yeah.
And because of him, we are now going to have to wait probably another 3 to 5 years for Grand Theft Auto, I would guess. Yeah, because you have to rebuild the game from scratch. Now the company's like, here's the other problem. You see this basic game that looks like junk because it's a beta and people are like, oh, the new Grand Theft Auto looks like crap.
Yeah.
It's probably 2 years out still. Now you pushed it. Now we're going to end up waiting till about, no exaggeration, we'll probably wait till 2028 till the next GTA comes out. So, yeah, this kid really screwed it for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me very angry.
Yeah.
But I'm not that much of a GTA player anymore, but it's the concept that you would ruin everything else in that company. And Rockstar is probably top 5, I would say, biggest companies right now.
Yeah, I'm just curious why. Yeah, I'm more interested
Sure,
in
maybe
what
he
would
can-
motivate him.
yeah.
What was your end? What did you think you were getting out of it?
That's what I mean. I don't think he knew. I think he wanted to say, "Oh my God, I have GTA 6. Like I know what it looks like," but he didn't think of the repercussions.
Right.
He wasn't mature enough to understand the repercussions of his actions.
Right.
And this is it's gonna hurt. Like they probably won't release it. I don't know the laws over there in the UK, but I'm sure they won't release his name and whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if they give this kid a job in the end, and then it just kind of goes.
Or
off to
they'll
the side.
quietly penalize him and say,
Yeah.
he's
So this is it's a pretty big deal of the f up that this kid did. But yeah, that's a bad one. But
big in the gaming world.
yeah. Last but not least, now this might be just as big, if not bigger. So Twitch had a crazy week last week in a bad way. So 2 things that they did. Oh, I know people wanted me to talk about there was a sexual assault thing between streamers. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't care about these people. They're whatever. It's all rumors, and I don't go off rumors. I couldn't care less. Right. But 2 things happened. So there was what's this kid's name? This guy, I shouldn't say kid. I always say kid. But there's a YouTube streamer, not XQC. Oh, that's what they started with. Okay. Slicker is his name. I don't know his real name. Abraham Slicker Muhammad. So this guy scammed a lot of people out of a lot of money. He's been a pretty big Twitch streamer for the last couple of years, to my understanding. I don't know his background. But he's been going to other YouTubers or other Twitch streamers and saying, hey, man, I need money. Like, I know we're friends. Like, he's friends with these people. He says, yo, I need money. And people were giving him money. Turns out he's got a really bad gambling addiction.
Okay.
He's been gambling all their money like crazy. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he comes out and he says, I'm so sorry. Like, I have a problem. And Twitch goes... I like this. This is what they did. They said one of the biggest categories for all the big streamers like an Aiden or an XQC or this guy is gambling websites. Mm-hmm. So it's literally them gambling their money. Finally, Twitch said, we're done with this. Like, no more gambling. There's too many kids watching.
Right.
There's issues. There's so many problems to this. And this guy keeps getting a lot of hate for it. I mean, he's got an addiction. He's a guy that clearly needs help. Which is a shame, and I hope he gets that help. But it was smart of Twitch to get rid of the gambling. Now, Twitch, yay, Twitch, you did a good job, right? Now, here's what's great. So, remember how we got rid of that exclusivity deal?
Yes.
I told you about? Mm-hmm. They said, okay, because, this is my guess, because we're doing the exclusivity where you can go anywhere you want now, like we don't own your content. Right. We get a 50-50 split of all of your Twitch earnings, which is nuts. That is the biggest. It went from 70-30, so I get 70% of the profits. 50-50. Now it's 30. You're taking streamers half of their money, right? Now, a lot of you would say, well, it's not that big of a deal in the sense of, like, say you make $100 and you make $50. It's probably not a main source of income for you. Mm-hmm. If it is a main source of income, I mean, your entire livelihood could be changed because you're not making as much as you used to. Right. That's a big issue. So for these big streamers where this is their money, like this is how they make a living, you just took away 25% of more than that, 30% of their income.
And some of them gave it to Muhammad, who wound up gambling it away.
And there's a big one named Asmongold who decided to start an alt account and just see how much money he's losing, making Twitch lose by not being a partner. Oh. So he doesn't use a Maze channel. He uses an alt account. Gotcha. He would have lost them $150,000 a month. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's just one person.
Right. So he makes roughly probably about $250,000 a month on Twitch.
Are they going to change their policy, or they're sticking to it?
This is the change. So this is the problem. You talk about how you're failing well,
Yeah.
YouTube says that you're failing, which
Yeah.
we all see it now.
Yeah.
All of you're losing all your biggest streamers. The only ones you have left might be, I think Pokemon's still on there. I don't even know. And everyone's going to YouTube where they can do what they want and play with who they want. Right now, here's my analogy. Twitch is a horse with 4 broken legs. And Big Daddy Bezos is coming out with a shotgun, and he's about. I bet you Amazon's going to start backing down a little bit.
Probably.
I think they're going to say, "Hey, this is hurting us more than helping us now,"
Right.
and it's not a good look for Twitch in the slightest.
Right.
So. This is people have been talking about it for the last month or two, how Twitch is dying because of all the big creators are leaving, and this is definitely another nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing you did something great by getting rid of the gambling. Again, it sucks for those gamblers who don't have an addiction and that is their livelihood, but I mean you are promoting gambling, which you should not be doing on any
Right. And now
game.
it's a risk.
And now it's a risk. But then you go, yeah, we did a good job. Now we're going to hit you with something that's blatantly just wrong to do, which is take 50% without really any warning. Like if you talked about this ahead of time, so you're going to start taking 50%. It starts next year. So you do have 3 months to figure out financials and whatever, but still you're really causing people to not want to go to your platform anymore. Right. It's like you're doing it on purpose. Right. Now, again, it's nice that you do the exclusivity so that I can make up that money somewhere else, and I think that's what they're thinking. But this only helps the big streamers who I can pull my viewers to another website. Right. Most people can't do that. Like if you're a streamer who just got monetized.
And what's the point of pulling them off of Twitch?
Right, because everyone's at Twitch. Yeah, exactly. So
productive.
Twitch is kind of waving the surrender flag a little here, in my opinion.
Maybe.
So you do something great, and then you kind of do something so bad that it shadows the greatness of what you just did. Like this was the best thing that they had in a while, getting rid of the gambling. And I know people are going to be like, well, the gambling, it brings in views. Yeah, it does, but you're still promoting gambling. And we're not talking little dollars you guys are doing. And then that one kid that's like, I'm going to spend mom's credit card. Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just wild. So, yeah, sorry for an abrupt ending. Luckily, there were no questions, which hurts every time when there's no questions in the Discord, but someone put it in an article. So, but 13 done. We got a birthday to celebrate, so we will end it there. 13 done. Only things I have to promote. Hold on. Monday's the podcast. Wednesday. Oh, so I did the escape room yesterday with Jason, so that was Friday's video. Monday is the podcast. Wednesday is something else. Got to figure that out. Other than that, social media down below, promo codes down below, other stream links down below, Discord down below for questions, and we will see you guys. I will see you guys on Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, tonight, technically, because this comes out on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. Hi.
People could do, can they do topics they're interested in? So we wouldn't be able to do it the next time, but if they send something,
you guys can send in topics whenever you want, like at any time in the week. Yeah,
we could look at other stuff. It doesn't just have to be what we like.
Exactly, that's the whole point. But if it's stuff that we just like, then it's just stuff that we like. But
if we like their topics, we're not doing them.
Yeah. If I don't like your question, later. But all right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.